What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin. And tonight we're going to be talking about something that is quite interesting and has been swirling around Twitterverse and all over social media. And that is number 12, Rashod Bateman and his changing of agencies and representation. Agent and representation. But before we get into it and what it could mean, if anything at all, for the Baltimore Ravens, make sure to take a quick second, hit the subscribe button. It's the best, most impactful way you can support the show. Give us a like, turn on your notifications. But now, Glenn, let's get into it. What are the details in regards to this swirling story that could be something, could be nothing around Rashod Bateman? What's going on?
Yeah, so Rashod Bateman, when he came into the league and negotiated his rookie deal, he was with an agency called the Institute for Athletes. It looks like that's headed by a gentleman named Blake Barretts, who was formerly of the NFL Players Association, broke off of that and decided to create his own sports agency. And so it's a relatively new, in terms of sports agencies in the NFL, it's a relatively new one. And he's instead switched to a company called Athletes First, which is a bit more established. And so what we need to get into is that, was this coincidental timing, or is there anything bigger when it comes to meaning here? So the rumors are, people are jumping to assumptions that he's switching agencies, and he's also, apparently, they're saying some Ravens stuff was removed from his Instagram page. Now, Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, there's still lots of Ravens stuff on his Instagram page. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say lots, but I would say there's a decent amount. He has a YouTube channel already and is really trying to establish himself as a brand. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot about him on it, right? Which is fine. It's his Instagram, you know what I mean? Yeah. Where other guys just handle it differently. But yeah, there's definitely photos of him in a Ravens uniform, catching football, running, et cetera, right? Like that's part of his Instagram portfolio or profile. Same thing with Twitter. He's got a few pictures of him with the Ravens as well. So yeah, I wouldn't say that they've all been taken down or removed or slashed.
You didn't know. Like, you didn't scour his Instagram before this story, so we don't really exactly know the difference of what was removed or what's still there. But basically, there's a certain select few that are saying he changed his agency, he removed a bunch of Raven stuff because he's unhappy with his playing time, target share, this offense, his development. That's what's swirling around right now.
Yeah, and like you said, I think part of what's giving that fire is the game yesterday, of course, where I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got one target. Yeah. And some people have talked about his dissipation of snaps in the fourth quarter in some of the games this year. So I think that's what's adding fuel to this whole narrative, right?
Oh, sure, certainly. But okay, so let's get into it. Do we think that all these moves is a direct correlation or a direct result of his lack of participation in the offense, or as a result of him being disgruntled with the Ravens organization? I will say this. I do not think that's the case at all. I think that, when you just kind of look into what, first of all, those agencies are, he went from an agency, the Institute for Athletes, that had a total of $158 million tied up right now in NFL contracts. But the vast majority of that 158, in fact, nearly half of that, is coming off of one guy, and that's Adam Thielen of the Minnesota Vikings. And after Adam Thielen, it's a considerable drop-off both in name and in contract. The next guy in line is Jonathan Allen, who, if you're a big-time NFL fan, you're probably familiar with the name because of his time in Alabama and as well as his time with the Washington football team. But after that, it's William Goldston. And then behind those three, Rashod Bateman was their biggest client at number 4 as a rookie. So then you switch over and see the agency he's going to, it's athletes first. And while I don't have the exact the client list in front of me, I'll tell you this. They currently have $4.4 billion in NFL contracts, just in the NFL. This isn't including all of their athletes, which is more than just the NFL. So you're talking $4.4 billion in contracts. Some of their biggest names are guys like Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson. So to me, he just went from a small agency to the big time. I mean, that's all I see here. And that could just be because, like you said, he's obviously takes his brand is important to him, like most guys. I mean, growing, and it should be, because, you know, you're your business. So I think that he just wants to make sure he gets the most out of his own business and his career. And so he's going to an agency he thinks better positions him to do so. I don't think the switching agents, to me, means absolutely nothing. I think the timing is purely coincidental. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, you know, I'm with you. I'm not putting much behind this story as far as trying to connect the dots with the story and being that being related to him being potentially disgruntled or anything like that. I'm not there yet. I absolutely am not. I think I agree with you 100%, where Rashod Bateman is very conscientious of his brand, of the brand of Rashod Bateman, more than other players. Wide receivers, I think, generally tend to be more than like offensive linemen generally. But certainly he is aware of that. And I think that that's a big portion of this. I think it's an opportunity for him to make some more money. And look, who can be mad at a guy for going after and getting some more money? I mean, have any of you folks ever rejected money before? I mean, you know, you see more money on the table because of promotion connections and opportunities that way. Why not? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I agree with you. Sometimes, you know, the phrase is, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't consider this smoke. I don't think this is an issue at all. And I don't think the Ravens are concerned about it either. So I'm fine with it. But it's coincidental, Glenn, that we are talking about this, because just very quickly, folks, I just want to talk about our new partner, who you guys are probably familiar with before. Social media is a thing today, and social media is a part of work. LinkedIn is the place to go for social media, for work, for building your portfolio, for making connections and things like that. However, most of you will know, because we are in the great resignation right now, where everyone is job hopping and everyone is resigning and the job market is hot and people are looking to hire the greatest people, that recruiters are going crazy right now. So right now, our partners and sponsors of this episode, LinkedIn Jobs, is doing a great job at helping you create tailored posts to find the right people with the right skills and experience, using screening questions and things of that nature, so you get filtered down to the right person. Our call to action to you guys today is simply this. LinkedIn helps you find candidates you want to talk to faster. Every week, you know, especially right now, there's about 40 million job seekers that visit LinkedIn. Post your job free at linkedin.com/410. Of course, that's our promo code 410. That's linkedin.com/410. Post your job for free, and go check it out. So if you want to find the best candidates, I know LinkedIn has personally helped me out. Do it today. Check it out. But I think that this is interesting, and it relates actually to our partner today, because, like I said, it's all about the agency. It's all about his representation. It's all about his platform and things like that. And I think he's pushing towards that. But it also raises a larger question, Glenn. If let's act under the assumption, while neither of us believe it, that he's disgruntled. Okay. Is it a systemic thing with this offense? Is it a concern that, you know, Hollywood Brown is currently leading the Ravens in history in yards per game as a wide receiver at 77? Is it a concern that you know, we haven't had a Pro Bowl wide receiver ever, right?
I don't think so.
You know, is it a concern for you? And then is it a concern that Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator who isn't known for slinging the rock 50 times a game, and you know, he's certainly no Byron Leftwich or McCarthy down in Dallas, right? Or Andy Reid. So any concerns that this is a systemic issue, that this offense is not equipped, the way that it's set up, the way that it's built, is not equipped to handle more than one star tight end and one star wide receiver, who we currently have in Hollywood Brown? Like, are there any concerns there?
Boy, that's a lot to unpack. So right now, currently, the Ravens' offense has me filled with a lot of concern. I mean, they've looked
Yeah.
horrible, and for the last 5 Lamar Jackson starts, they haven't scored more than 20 points. So the offense in general has me worried. But as far as Rashod Bateman, his participation in the offense in general, whether it is, if it has the ability to produce at a high level and not just it be one, not just be Hollywood on the outside and Mark Andrews in between the hash marks. I don't think I'm not concerned about this. And let me say this. I mean, look, he's been active for 7 games now.
Yep.
In 6 of those games, he had at least 3 catches. It was only last game that he didn't have a catch. I mean, every other game he's been active, he's had at least 3 and as many as 6 catches in a game. So he's already being worked into this offense. And as a rookie who had a surgery to start the year, I think he's being worked into this offense at a decent rate. Now, last week, he got no catches, but did the offense, I mean, who did have a good game offensively?
Right.
I mean, you'd be hard to point at one person who had a good game. I mean, nobody really did outside of you could maybe argue Devonta Freeman had a decent game, but outside of him, everyone had a bad game. So it wasn't just him. If he is that, and when you talk about, it's Hollywood and it's Mark Andrews and then it's Rhett, isn't that how it is in every single offense on every single team? Every team has its go-to guys that have a clear, like if you go to Kansas City, I think we'll see that Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce get the lion's share of the opportunities. I don't think that Byron Pringle or McCole Hardman, you can add both their targets up. I guarantee it doesn't equal what Ty Hill or Travis Kelce get. So it's the same way everywhere. And the same can be said in Seattle with Metcalf and Lockett and with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk or I'm sorry, Travis Kelce. What's his name? George Kittle.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can go around the league, and I guarantee every team has their 1-2 punch. I mean, I'm sure in Minnesota, it's Thielen and it's Jefferson. You think that there's a third guy who's close to those two in targets? I don't have them in front of me, but I guarantee there's not. So I think every team has their go-to guys. And, of course, when the offense is clicking, you see a bunch of guys targeted, a bunch of guys eating, and a bunch of guys getting involved in the offense. But when the offense is struggling, you see days like yesterday where a guy like Rashod Bateman, who right now, when you have Sammy Watkins, you have Hollywood Brown, you have Mark Andrews, right now they're ahead of him as far as the targets go. So they're going to get it. But finally, what I want to say is, if this is the truth, let's operate as if Rashod Bateman did do all these things because of his frustration in this offense.
Oh boy.
And let's say that he's upset. Then good riddance if that's the case. Good riddance. If you have the audacity to come in as a rookie, play in 7 games, 6 of those games you get at least 3 grabs and as many as 6 grabs, and you are one game, you don't get you only get 1 target, you don't get a catch, you're ready to just quit the team and bounce. If that were the case, he is not a Raven, and goodbye. Now, luckily, I don't think that's the case. But if that was the case, good riddance to you, Mr. Rashod Bateman.
Wow. Yeah, it's there. Like you said at the beginning, there's a lot to unpack. And I think I agree with a lot of your statements. But I think the only anomaly there that kept coming to my mind was the Buccaneers, right? But where they
got
have
the GOAT and they got 14.
Well, and that's what I mean. They have
Hall of Famers.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, yeah, they got so many weapons out there. But yeah, the typical structure of a successful team is as you put it. And so I think that Rashod Bateman's got a once again, guys, we're acting on the assumption that this is an issue, right? If this is the issue. One, I don't think it's a systemic thing. Like, I don't think the offense is built wrong. I think that wide receivers can have success in this offense. We're seeing Hollywood Brown have success in this offense, and it's trending towards passing more. Lamar Jackson is chucking the ball enough. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, maybe once again, you said it. This last game was terrible, but throughout the season, Lamar Jackson has been chucking the ball around the field enough where plenty of guys can get it. I mean, it's just really that simple. And
let's be honest, Sammy Watkins isn't here long term.
Right.
So Bateman will immediately elevate next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Without some people are just assuming with a healthy season he's gonna even surpass Marquise Brown. That's just assuming that he doesn't even do that, which is definitely a possibility based on what we've seen. So I don't think it's an issue with the offense. I don't think the system is bad. I think it works, and I think wide receivers can thrive here. Of course, we did a video on that, and look at Marquise Brown's stats this year. He's probably going to make a Pro Bowl unless he absolutely drops off of a cliff. So wide receivers can do it, and I think more than one can do it. But I agree with you, Glenn. If he has to know, though, right? Like, if he actually thinks this is an issue, it's really concerning. It's a red flag, not only for the Ravens, but for any other team, right? Because he has to understand that, one, he's a rookie. Like I said, he's played 7 games. He's coming off an injury. And the fact that, he has no leverage in this scenario, and the Ravens are absolutely hoping and banking on him being a huge part of this offense moving forward, right? Like, you're coming from a situation where you have nothing to leverage as far as your power, and you have very little to gain. So if you're unintelligent enough to do something like that from a business standpoint, from a career standpoint, man, that like the burn the house down type scenario under all circumstances, probably not a good idea moving forward, right? And I don't think that this is an issue either. Look, one of the things, we had the guy from Minnesota come on who covered the University of Minnesota, and he said that, and in fact, I think he's got a tattoo of it. Rashod Bateman is a big believer in the row the boat scenario that his coach talked about. And a long time ago, if you remember, Glenn, about a week or two ago, I said that rowing is probably the most, outside of football, is one of the most team-oriented sports. There's no star. That's the idea of what his coach would say. You row the boat, right? Everyone is a key in the cog, right? And I think Rashod Bateman believes that. I think he buys into that. So I don't think there's any concerns here. For Ravens fans out there, I wouldn't be concerned.
Just building his brand.
Yeah, he's just outgrown the agency. He feels like he can make more money somewhere with representation and better opportunities. And it's just that simple, guys. Like, I know we're all overreacting because it's Monday and we just lost to the Steelers, but let's just not go there, right? Like, let's not.
Yeah, we got enough to deal with here in Baltimore. We don't need to add anything
speculation, else. Right? Like, let's deal with what's actually happening.
Right. And from what we heard from, I know his first name was Landry, I believe it was. The gentleman we had on, like you mentioned, that covered the team, former safety.
Oh, that's TCU.
I'm sorry, TCU. That's right. We just had a gentleman who's a writer from Minnesota. Okay.
Correct.
Everything we heard from him was that this would be totally outside the character of Rashod Bateman. This is not, he is not known as being a diva type receiver. And a guy who's played in 7 games, 25 catches as a rookie in your first 7 games played, over 300 yards. It's not the worst rookie performance. We've certainly seen plenty of stud receivers not come to that level in their first 7 games. So totally would be shocking to hear that this was actually as a result of his frustrations with the Ravens and their organization. I would be stunned to hear that. So in conclusion, I don't think there's anything that Ravens fans should be worried about. He just outgrew that agency, moved on, and there's still plenty of representations on the representation of the Ravens on his Instagram. So I don't think he was trying to wipe it clean.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything Ravens fans have to worry about. Rashod Bateman is a huge part of their plans going forward, and if he wasn't, they wouldn't have used their first overall pick on him in a very important draft, a draft that they knew needed to be a hit if they wanted to capitalize on this window that everybody always talks about before you have to pay your quarterback.
Yep.
But let us know what you guys think. Are we missing something? Is there some is there other data that we just weren't made aware of that maybe helps kind of form a different opinion here? Or do you agree with us? Do you feel like this was kind of just trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, and there's really nothing to be concerned? Let us know all in the comments below, and we will talk soon.